and welcome to the North American premiere of The Lighthouse. To begin with, I'd like to acknowledge that this event is taking place on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Credit First Nation and the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat, and we are so thankful to be working in the community today and every day of every year. This film is eligible for the Welsh People's Choice Award, so you can go to tiff.net/vote and vote there for your favorite films. And I suspect this will be one of them. And of course, I want to thank our amazing partners at VVS and A24, who've been incredible year after year with amazing movies. Without them, we couldn't do things like this. So how many people saw a movie called The Witch? I mean, I think that when you watch a master filmmaker come out that strong, then you're set with such a high bar of expectations. And for us as a programming team, this movie unbelievably clears it. It is one master stroke of crescendo, and I'm so excited to present it to you. So here's a man who needs no introduction, Robert Eggers.
Thanks. Okay. Too kind. Thank you. Very too kind. I want to invite Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson to the stage. First, I'd like to thank TIFF for the honor of being here. It's incredible to have the North American premiere here. The Witch was at the Ryerson, and it was a great experience. And I hope that you'll be just as generous as that audience. I want to thank RT Features, New Regency, and A24 for giving me unprecedented freedom to make this movie. I want to thank Rob and Willem for their absolutely astonishing performances. And we have a whole lot of crew here, and it's too many people to name, but if you could please rise if you worked on this movie. Give them a round of applause. I can't begin to describe the passion and work ethic of the crew of this film. And speaking of which, our thoughts are. I mean, we're thinking of Nova Scotia right now as the hurricane is there where we shot this. So I hope everyone is well. So hope you enjoy it. Okay. Thank you. The crew should bow.
While you guys are collecting some questions in your subconscious to bring them forth, I'd like to start with, your last film was a period piece and you decided to do another one. And I remember reading an interview with you where when asked if you would do a contemporary film, you said you prefer to go into the past to look at humans today. And would that quote apply to this film in any way? Or is this film something that really more comes out of total myth and literature like H.P. Lovecraft or Edgar Allan Poe? Or do you feel like there is something in there that you observe today in these characters?
Like many wannabe auteur types, I'm not out to make a film that has a message or has a particular intention or is deliberately trying to speak about something current. However, I don't live in a vacuum, and certain things come to the front, and no one in here could enjoy the film if there weren't things about this that are speaking about what's happening today, even if it's not a specific political issue right now, or maybe it is, but it talks about like where we come from, where we are, where we're going as human people.
Terrific. The other question I would have is to the cast. This is such a physically demanding performance. How did Robert prepare you for these scenes, and how did you prepare yourselves for what the script was asking you to do? Was there much rehearsal process?
Yeah, we did like 5 days of rehearsal, but I mean, I think because of how Robert set up the set, I mean, it was kind of, it's not particularly difficult when everything is basically, other than the camera being there, it's essentially real. And the thing, the lighthouse, I almost call it a windmill for a second. The lighthouse,
the set was fully built, as I understand, right?
It's fully built, yeah.
Yeah, every building you see was made for the film.
That's testament to the crew. But even like the choreography of some of your tussles in that space, like what goes into preparing for a scene like that?
We have to figure that out ahead of time, pretty much. Also, the visual language is so precise that in those rehearsals, really, we didn't do so much performance stuff as we really figured out where the camera would be and where we would have to be in relationship to the camera, which is kind of backwards of how you usually do it, because you usually do the scene and then the camera says, oh, let's see what happened and let's find the proper place to view it from. But it was a good way because it became a discipline. And we're in a confined space, and I don't know, it just felt correct that we had to conform to certain confines, of the visual language.
How often or how many takes were required for the buried alive sequence?
That wasn't pleasant.
I just want to throw it out there. I think both of you deserve awards recognition come Oscar season. Not many actors, I think, would eat dirt.
A simple answer, I think 2.
I think 2.
He wasn't, yeah. It's not pleasant.
And Robert Pattinson, what was it like working with the other co-star of the film, the seagull?
I never even met the seagull, to be honest. No, I met one seagull.
At the end there?
I think that was all done without me, man. There was oh, I should have even thought, sorry. I definitely, the one that's the carcass of the seagull, that is not a real seagull. That didn't happen.
Thank goodness.
But yeah,
that was a rubber chicken.
Literally a rubber chicken.
And destroying it on set did not cause, hopefully, too many storms. But I did hear that it was a very, the set was sort of besieged by bad weather, and it was a very tough shoot in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, the shot where the two of them are standing there waiting for the lighthouse tender to pick them up, I mean, that was how windy it actually was that day. And several nor'easters blew over Forshu when they were building the sets, and the salt water froze on the scaffolding. It was cold.
Do we have questions in the audience? Right there. When this comes to theater, would you consider adding subtitles? I suppose another interesting angle to that question, though, is about the dialect in the film, the research, and how important that was.
Yeah, I did a lot of research. My brother and I, we read Melville and Robert Louis Stevenson, and there's tons of readily available, dictionaries of sailors' words that are like this thick. But this main author from the 19th century, Sarah Orne Jewett, who she wrote her stories in dialect based on interviews she had with local Mainers, was the most helpful resource for creating these two different dialects.
Right there.
Piggybacking off of that last question, this film, like The Witch, uses very highly researched, antiquated dialect. Has dialect always been something that you've been interested in for a while, and is it something you hope to explore in future films as well?
The question is about the dialect of film again, and whether this is a particular fascination of the director.
Yeah, I like language. It's fun, and certainly if I use this word too much, but it's transportive.
I imagine it's fun for the actors too. Was there a sort of a joy to soak on these syllables?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, because you're not only dealing with images, but it's a very specific, it's a very articulate way when we're trying to get at each other. The language was really fun to play with. It's one of the first things that gets you into the character, really.
There's so
Because
much-
I don't speak like that. At home.
There's so much humor. There's so much humor to that language. It was a very important part for you.
Yeah, I mean, the Witch takes itself so seriously, and if I was going to make another miserable movie, I wanted one where we could also laugh at, misery.
Yes, right there. Yes.
Genuinely curious, were the farts real?
Genuinely curious, were the farts real?
Half and half.
Let's go to the balcony. Is there anyone on the balcony with a question? What do you know? I don't see one up there. Okay, right there.
Yeah, you have the intentions of low angle shots for the film.
The question is about the cinematography, specifically the decisions behind some of the low angle for compositions in the film, and whether that was a consideration.
Perhaps the most striking low-angle shot is when Dafoe is cursing Rob, and obviously that's to convey his authority and power, and whatever.
A lot in the front row. I just want to make sure people get it at the back too. Back here. All right, the one that said back here because you got the boldness. Go for it.
First of all, I just want to say,
Oh, the person that said right here.
masterpiece.
Masterpiece. Okay, thank you. Comment, not a question. Did the woman have a question? The decision to shoot on film, and what sort of process was that like?
Before I had written anything, I wanted to shoot it on black and white negative. The atmosphere and the mood of the film came before the story. My brother had an idea for a ghost story in a lighthouse, and we kicked this idea around, and I got locked in this idea of a two-hander in black and white. And because XX film stock hasn't changed since the 1950s, it has a look that takes us to the past immediately. We also used a particular filter to make it look like orthochromatic film from earlier in the century, which will show like every pore and blemish and in these men's faces, and which will also make the film richer.
There's a question over there.
Yes, a question for the actors. Did you guys know each other before starting filming, or did you develop any sort of like chemistry?
Questions about the actors' chemistry.
I think we met once before, very, very briefly, and then it was strange. I mean, we barely talked the entire movie, and then I think we interviewed each other. You interviewed
That
me.
was crazy.
And then I was like, wow.
We did this entire film together, and then afterwards, many months later, I did an interview with him. I interviewed him for Interview magazine, and I thought, God, we went kind of through the same experience. And we thought a lot of the same things, but I had no sense of that while we were doing it, because I think our characters and our functions in the movie were so different, and we were always with each other, but there's always that distance between his mystery and my aggression or whatever it is, you know. It's not like we just worked, you know. We didn't talk about the work, we just did it. And it's only after the fact that we sort of got to know each other. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're going to close things off at the front here, but yes, both of you will go one after another. You first, to the right.
So there's a lot of very detailed costumes and very interesting use of facial hair and look. How much is that things you grew and how much is that makeup and how did you get used to
How committed were the actors to the facial hair?
That was me. But the teeth. My teeth aren't great, but I felt the need to have even funkier teeth, so I wore fake teeth.
Rob's mustache was real too.
Right there, you know.
I found myself thinking a lot about the subgenre kind of defined by Persona and Mulholland Drive, which is obviously female-driven. I was wondering, I don't know if that came into mind for you at all, but where the genesis of this relationship was and what influences filmmakers.
So the final question, just to repeat for the back, was that the film reminded the audience member of Mulholland Drive and Persona, and which were very female-centric narratives, but centered around a duo. And this is a very masculine depiction of a sort of a duo in a film. And were those influences, or what kind of drew you to this idea of two men bonding and coming apart this way?
Well, I mean, Persona is certainly an influence. It's not like, it wasn't like I said, what would Persona be like with two dudes? But the idea of doing a period lighthouse film that I wanted to be a very remote lighthouse and a stag station. Like there were other lighthouses where you would bring a family, but I thought that it would, to make it a two-hander, it would need to be this kind of stag station, and in order to make it historically accurate, it would be two men, and there you go. I mean, I read about a real story of two lighthouse keepers in Wales in the early part of the 19th century, both named Thomas. One was older, one was younger, and they get trapped during a storm and things go poorly. It's a different story than this, but the two men named Thomas was sort of my way in to what this became.
Thank you so much. Please give a round of applause. And do not forget to vote for the film at tiff.net/vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.